Well, today, the vacancy where Donald Trump's mind is supposed to be was on grim display once again. And this is an important day to consider the workings of Donald Trump's mind, because this is the day that he and Marco Rubio are celebrating starving children to death in the middle of a famine in Africa. This is the day Donald Trump and Marco Rubio are celebrating the removal of previously paid for life-saving AIDS medication for patients in Africa, where a program started by Republican President George W. Bush and Dr. Anthony Fauci has already saved more than 25 million lives just in the 21st century alone with HIV medication. And we have been delivering that medication for 25 years as a gift, because we have the gift and we can afford to give it, because we are the richest country in the world. We've been sending that life-saving medication to the poorest countries in the world without it putting even the slightest dent in the budget of the United States government, or increasing the national debt in a measurable way, which on this day, Donald Trump is celebrating his ability to increase the national debt by $3.5 trillion with his tax cut bill for billionaires that passed the Senate this morning by one vote, with the vice president forced to cast the tie-breaking vote in the Senate on the biggest cuts to Medicaid in the history of that program. Trump Republican budget cuts that will take health care coverage away from 17 million people. You have to consider what goes through the mind of a person blithely capable of such grotesque cruelty. We do know that Donald Trump simply lies about the Medicaid cuts in the legislation that he is celebrating. That's how Donald Trump deals with that cruelty externally. Donald Trump just lies about it. Donald Trump doesn't want to own that particular cruelty. That's not one he wants to own. Donald Trump doesn't want to pay the political price, and he doesn't want the Republicans who vote for it to pay the political price for snatching health care away from 17 million Americans. And Donald Trump can be very confident that there will be absolutely no political price paid by anyone for his decision, and Elon Musk's decision, and Marco Rubio's decision to close down the United States Agency for International Development, which ended operations today, because the American news media simply isn't covering that. It's illegal to close down a program like that, as we will discuss later in this hour. The Constitution doesn't allow the president to simply close down an agency and programs created by Congress and by law. But it turns out you can do anything as president if Congress and the Supreme Court will do nothing to stop you. If Joe Biden were president tonight, the American people would not be embarked on what is a worldwide campaign of cruelty in their name by the Trump government, cruelty that includes cruelty now in the United States, cruelty to immigrants in the United States, and now cruelty to Donald Trump's own voters who believed him as a candidate when he said he would not cut their Medicaid. There are Trump voting areas of this country where government-funded health care supports most of the people living in those areas. Medicaid, Medicare, the Affordable Care Act are providing health care to most people in several areas of this country, including some parts of rural Trump country. And Medicaid pays for 40% of the nursing home care in this country. Donald Trump said, cut it. And every Republican in the Senate and every Republican in the House who were needed to deliver those cuts said, okay, it's Donald Trump's idea. And that's good enough for them. That's an example of Hannah Arendt's famous phrase, the banality of evil. Cruelty is easy to do when you just don't think about it. Cruelty is easy to do when you just think the decisions are up to someone else. Cruelty is easy to do when you think you're just doing your job, that's how you arrive at the banality of evil, the banality of cruelty. If you turn off the sound when evil is being done, it looks exactly the same as the way it looks when good things are being done, when lives are being saved, when lives are being changed for the better. Governing in this country through the budget reconciliation process in Congress that we have been watching on television since the 1980s, when cameras were finally allowed in Congress, always looks the same. There is always the so-called votorama in the Senate performed by the political party in the Senate that is on the losing side of the budget reconciliation process. There is no way for the powerless minority to stop the majority party during the budget reconciliation process, as has been proven when President Clinton's party was in power in Congress, when President George W. Bush's party was in power in Congress, when President Barack Obama's party was in power in Congress. And it is now being proven once again, the minority has no power when the majority party is united, as the Democrats were when they created what is now called Obamacare. Republicans opposed Obamacare in the same way the Democrats are now opposing the Republicans snatching health care away from people. And it looks the same. It looks the same on TV. It's men in neckties disagreeing, women in pantsuits and skirts disagreeing. It is the banality of Congress at work. And what you're always left wondering during these difficult to watch spectacles is, why don't they care? Why don't they care about the 15% of the population that was being denied health care coverage in America before Obamacare was passed? Republicans argued in every way they could about what they found wrong with the Affordable Care Act as legislation, and it was reasonable to share some of those concerns, but they never once explained why they didn't care. Why they didn't care about the people who didn't have health insurance and couldn't get it and couldn't afford it and would never be able to afford it without government assistance. And if you say government spending has to be cut and Medicaid is the first place you go to cut spending while you're massively increasing defense spending, why don't you care? Why don't they ever tell us why they don't care? Mitch McConnell told us. Mitch McConnell was quoted as telling his Republican colleagues in a private Senate lunch, they'll get over it. Meaning Mitch McConnell's Kentucky constituents, the poor ones, and the constituents of every Republican senator would get over them taking their health care away. I knew Mitch McConnell when I was working in the Senate, and he was voting against Bill Clinton's health care reform bill, which died on the Senate floor because of the opposition of Mitch McConnell and every Republican. And Mitch McConnell never said then why he doesn't care. The American news media, for the most part, doesn't care at all about today being the official shutdown of USAID. Most of the American news media has not covered Elon Musk's great accomplishment in government in any detail at all. Elon Musk, with Donald Trump's approval, shutting down USAID for the first time in American history. We have, at many points in our history, since 1847, sent famine relief supplies around the world. And we have never once told those ships to turn around. Until this year, we have never once said that the surplus food supply that the United States produces every year, much more food than the United States could ever consume or sell, must never be given to the people who need that food or they will die. We've never said that before. That's what the United States of America did this year. But the big news story of today is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are fighting again. The same two deranged rich guys who decided that people should starve to death is not a story, but because they are fighting again, the fight is a story. And that's where the American news media is going to go. That's where they're going to go tonight. Bill Gates, who has done everything he can, beginning back when he was the richest person in the world, to try to use his wealth for good around the world, especially in Africa, sees Elon Musk now as, quote, the world's richest man killing the world's poorest children. What is the basis of this devotion to Donald Trump by elected Republicans in Congress? Who is this person who has taken complete control of those elected Republicans? How does he do it? How brilliant must he be to simply take over the entire Republican Party and convince virtually all of the congressional Republicans, House and Senate, to do it his way all the time? It's not the nobility of Donald Trump's character. That's the kind of quality Nelson Mandela had as a leader, and no Republican would claim that Donald Trump has any of that. If it is the power of his thinking, then Donald Trump is smarter than every Republican he deals with. But what if there's actually nothing there? What if Donald Trump's mind is empty and dysfunctional? What does that make the Republicans who agree with him and vote for everything he wants? How craven does that make them? How deeply in violation of their oaths to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States are they all? Think about the emptiness of the minds of the Republican senators and Republican members of the House of Representatives when you listen and watch the utter emptiness of Donald Trump when he is asked today about his new theater of cruelty in Florida, the place that Republicans gleefully call Alligator Alcatraz. Watch this stunning exhibition of the emptiness and total dysfunction of Donald Trump's mind that is worse than anything ever seen in the mind of any president of any country. It was a simple question. It was the last question. It was the typical gift from a Fox reporter to bring Donald Trump back from his ramblings about groceries and other incomprehensible points that he was making, and giving Donald Trump the gift of one more chance to talk about his newest exhibition of cruelty for which the Republican Party is now selling merchandise. Alligator Alcatraz t-shirts. Fox gave Donald Trump another chance to sell more Alligator Alcatraz t-shirts. Just exactly what he went to Florida to do, exactly why he was there. It was as if the Fox reporter was on orders to make sure that that last question goes right to the point of why Donald Trump is sitting there. Now watch what Donald Trump does with that incredible gift from Fox, what he does with that chance. Watch what he does with the question that he wanted to get, a simple question: how long will these temporary structures thrown on a runway be here? How long will the detainees be here? Simple. Couldn't be simpler. Watch Donald Trump's repeated inability to understand that simple question.
How about one more question? Okay, please, in the back.
Tina Marie McNichol, Fox News Channel. Mr. President, is there an expected time frame that detainees will spend here, days, weeks, months? And does that have anything to do with the immigration judges you just spoke about being trained and staffed here?
When you say, what was the first part of your question?
Is there a specific time frame you expect the detainees to spend here? Days, weeks, months?
In Florida?
Yes, here at Alligator Alcatraz.
I'm going to spend a lot. Look, this is my home state. I love it. I love your government. I love all the people around. These are all friends of mine. They know them Very well. I mean, I'm not surprised that they do so well. They're great people. Ron has been a friend of mine for a long time. I feel very comfortable in the state. I'll spend a lot of time here.
That's right. Donald Trump thought the question was, how much time are you going to spend in Florida? That's what a lot of 79-year-old guys get when they move to Florida. How much time are you going to spend in Florida? But the question was, is there an expected time frame that detainees will spend here? Days, weeks, months? The answer, the rest of the answer, gets even worse. I stopped it there to spare you hearing the actual sound of the banality of Donald Trump's creeping dementia and his cruelty. I'm going to read to you what he actually said. Here is what he continued to say in the wrong answer to that question. How long will the detainees be here? He said, I'll spend a lot of time here. I want to, for 4 years I've got to be in Washington. I'm okay with it because I love the White House. I even fixed up the little Oval Office. I made it. It's like a diamond. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It wasn't maintained properly, I will tell you that. But even when it wasn't, it was still the Oval Office. So it meant a lot. But I'll spend as much time as I can here. My vacation is generally here because it's convenient. I live in Palm Beach. It's my home, and I have a very nice little place, nice little cottage to stay at, right? But we have a lot of fun, and I'm a big contributor to Florida. Pay a lot of tax. Let me just pause here for a second to note that the state of Florida has 0 state income tax, unlike the state of New York, which he left. So no, he doesn't pay a lot of tax in Florida. Donald Trump kept talking. I'm a big contributor to Florida. I pay a lot of tax. And a lot of people moved from New York. And I don't know what New York is going to do. A lot of people moved to Florida from New York, and it was for a lot of reasons. But one of them was taxes. The taxes are so high in New York. They're leaving. I don't know what New York is going to do about that, because some of the biggest, wealthiest people and some of the people that pay the most taxes of any people anywhere in the world, for that matter, they're moving to Florida and other places. So we're going to have to help some of these states out, I think. But thank you very much. I'll be here as much as I can. Very nice question. He's not there. There's a character named Donald Trump with a red hat and orange makeup who shows up at these events and words come out of his mouth, but he's not there. His mind, as exhibited from that response to that very simple question, does not work. And that is a crisis for the United States of America every day. Children are going to go hungry in this country now because Donald Trump, whose mind doesn't work, has decided to cut food assistance to poor children. Mothers are going to lose their Medicaid coverage while they're on the delivery tables in hospitals because Republican senators last night voted to specifically make sure they could do exactly that. An amendment offered by Democrats to prevent Medicaid from being taken away from women while they're on the delivery table in a hospital having a baby, and Republicans voted to make sure that they absolutely could do that to any woman on Medicaid. To make sure they could take Medicaid away from any mother at any time before childbirth, during childbirth, or immediately after childbirth, and take it away from that baby who was just born. And so the legislative cruelty fest continues now, tonight, in the House of Representatives, and it looks the same. It looks exactly the same. As it looks when Congress is doing something good. And because it looks the same, many Americans will never see through the banality of cruelty that is on display in the House of Representatives tonight, and that is what you're feeling. We are living with the banality of cruelty, and we are feeling it. That is the pain.